Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today on Solo RPG Friday, we are going to be doing an unboxing of the new Dying Earth box sets from Dungeon Crawl Classics and Goodman Games. I also have a few Jack Vance books here just to kind of like show off and talk about a little bit. But it should be known that I am not a huge fan of Dungeon Crawl Classics as far as the game goes. For me, Dungeon Crawl Classics doesn't offer up the kinds of things that I like from sword and sorcery and heroic fiction. I don't like how weak the characters start off. I don't like all of the modifiers. I find the game a little cumbersome. I find that the rules get in the way of my fun a lot. I've never played DCC solo. I've only played in groups. And while I have had good times playing those games, the good times are more about playing with friends and having camaraderie around the table. It's never the game that I actually like. What I do like about DCC stuff are the books. I think the books are really nice. They have amazing art. They are good sources to use, good pieces of information, good things to use in other games. So I'm hoping that the Dying Earth box set setting does have some interesting things that I can use maybe in Morkborg or in Scarlet Heroes or other things like that, things where I like the system a little more. I also really like Jack Vance, and I think the Dying Earth setting is quite interesting. The thing that I find most interesting about Jack Vance and Dying Earth and a lot of Jack Vance's work is the combination of science fiction and fantasy. He really was an author who explored the realms of science fantasy a lot. In The Dying Earth, it is a future, a way, way, way distant future where magic and technology they have the same amount of mystery and power and viability. And The Dying Earth really has more in common with something like Gene Wolfe's Book of the New Sun than it does with something like Conan. So Dying Earth, I have never owned a really cool version of Dying Earth. The versions with the really nice covers are always so expensive. The first time that I ever read Dying Earth, I'm going to show it on the screen, I read this version, and my God, what a terrible cover. That cover has almost nothing to do, or it has absolutely nothing to do with the book at all. It makes it look like some kind of space opera science fiction. I really don't understand what they were doing with that cover. This cover here from the Fantasy Masterworks version isn't much better. This makes Dying Earth look like a really kind of just generic, I don't know, Game of Thrones style fantasy or something. The Fantasy Masterworks series from Galans, this was a breath of fresh air. These things were worth their weight in gold to readers in the early 2000s. Galans, they put out this series, the Fantasy Masterworks and the Science Fiction Masterworks, and they brought back into print just dozens and dozens of amazing and groundbreaking and influential works of fantasy and science fiction. My friends and I, when we would go to the bookstore, we would kind of race each other to the shelves, just looking for these spines in order to find these treasures, because so many of the books that they published under these imprints, the fantasy and science fiction masterworks, were out of print, and sometimes they were out of print for decades, and these versions really were the only way to find good readable copies of this stuff in the early 2000s. And so I'm very, very grateful to have all of the Tales of the Dying Earth novels, the stories in this collection, even if I think the cover is pretty bad here. But let's read a little bit about what the back of the book here. A dim place, ancient beyond knowledge. Ages of rain and wind have beaten and rounded the granite, and the sun is feeble and red. A million cities have fallen to dust. In place of old peoples, a few thousand strange souls live on. There is evil on earth. Earth is dying. Travel to a far distant future where magic and science are one, and the earth has but a few short decades to live. Here, in one volume, is Jack Vance's masterpiece, The Dying Earth Saga, comprising The Dying Earth, The Eyes of the Overworld, Kugel's Saga, and Rialto the Marvelous. And here I do have one cover here, one book here of Kugel's Saga, but even that is a pretty bad cover, I would say. The covers that I really do like, and this is more of a work of planetary romance or Sword and Planet, kind of more of a mix of science fiction, kind of like the Barzoom series or The Princess of Mars, John Carter of Mars. But that is the Planet of Adventure. And these covers are all by Jeffrey Catherine Jones. And these are really nice. So we have the City of the Chach, the Servants of the Wonk or the Wank. Those titles are hilarious. I love them. The Deer and the Noom. Very cool. These are a lot of fun. I highly recommend Planet of Adventure. And then this one, The Gray Prince, I just picked up. And I did take a look at this on a recent book haul video for All Fiction is Fantasy. Cool little book here. The Blue World by Jack Vance there. I think that is another Jeffrey Catherine Jones cover, I believe. And here we have a collection here called 8 Phantasms and Magics, a science fiction adventure. 8 phantasmagorical flights into the regions of the paranormal, where possibility and probability exceed the reaches of our wildest dreams. I love that psychedelic cover there. And then one of his more popular books outside of Dying Earth is the Lioness series there. And yeah, Jack Vance is really cool. Most people who are watching this probably know, but if you don't, Jack Vance's Dying Earth series was a huge major influence on Gygax and Dungeons and Dragons, especially the magic system of sorcerers, magicians having to have books of spells where they had to memorize the spells. And in the books, the wizards will often call out the name of the spell as they are casting it. And it reminds me a lot of like anime, where in anime, when people are fighting, they're kind of constantly calling out the attacks that they are doing. Or even in old kung fu movies, where the kung fu masters are naming their attacks and calling them out. And other kung fu masters, they know the defenses and they know the defensive moves. And so they call out the defensive moves as well. And you have this kind of back and forth, not just physically, but a mental conflict that takes place at the same time as the physical conflict. And that's what I really get out of Dying Earth. And I think that's what it added to the entire kind of realm of fantasy role playing. And you know what? I just noticed putting these side by side that the Stretch Goals collection and the adventures in the main box set form a panorama picture. That is awesome. I love that. Very, very cool. I'm glad I just noticed that. But let's read a little bit about the Dying Earth box set here. Okay, explored the singular world of Jack Vance's Dying Earth, set in the distant last days of the world, where magic and science blend together and querulous sorcerers feud endlessly. That they do. It's almost like Dragon Ball, where it's just one sorcerer after another fighting each other. With Dungeon Crawl Classics Dying Earth, you will discover the tools to play in Kugel's and Rialto's world, seek the mighty pendulum, and fall to an indifferent Gru while searching for scintillant baubles among the ensorcelled remains of the ancient earth. All right, and then let's take a look real quick at the back of the Stretch Goals box. And here we have, welcome to the DCC Dying Earth Kickstarter Stretch Goal box set. This box set is dedicated to our DCC Dying Earth backers who made the overwhelming success of our Kickstarter campaign possible. With these contents, your players can acquire baffling talismans and other items mystical, delve into the manses of famed archmages, and encounter notable personages from the Dying Earth stories themselves. Very cool. All right, so we are going to go ahead and open up the main box set here, and I'm really hoping that this adds some stuff to add to my games, to whatever other games I want to play. I'm hoping this is a good resource of information and it has some cool books with some cool art and things to discover. Okay, let's get this open. These boxes are always really tight. Nice cardboard, nice boxes there. All right, so we have the Player's Librum based on Dying Earth book series by Jack Vance. Really cool cover there. I like that. I like the colors a lot. those vibrant kind of psychedelic covers or colors really do justice to the world that Jack Vance created. Look at that. Beautiful. Yeah, they just get some of the best art here. Let's see, project lead was Mark Bruner. Interior art and cartography by Joe Aberano, Chris Arneson, Jason Edwards, Tom Galambos, Doug Kovacs, Aaron Creeder, Cliff Kurowski, Will McCausland, of course, Brad McDevitt, Jesse Moan, Stefan Poeg, Chad Sergsketter, JV West, and Chuck Whelan. Art direction and layout by Matt Hildebrand. So here we have an introductory presentments. Welcome to Dungeon Crawl Classics Dying Earth. DCC Dying Earth is both a source book and a setting for the DCC role-playing game and offers a portal to the singular world of the Dying Earth novels by Jack Vance. As a source book, it expands the DCC RPG core rules and gives players and judges new material inspired by the Dying Earth stories. All right, let's thumb through this real quick here. Optional rules for warrior magicians, a note on Vancian language. During the course of this project, the writing team drew inspiration, much of it whimsical, from the rich tapestry of language that pervades Jack Vance's stories, including those of the Dying Earth. So Jack Vance was known as a great kind of stylist amongst his peers. Very verbose, lots of purple prose. His naming conventions were wild. Would often it almost like seems like he would throw letters together at a whim to make up a name for something. But it sounds like they have used that kind of a verboseness, that kind of a purple prose throughout the book. We have Dying Earth sources here, an author's note. Readers not familiar with the stories of the Dying Earth are encouraged to seek out for themselves the tales of Guyul, Turgeon, and Rialto as an inspirational source for their Dying Earth games. Yes, read fiction. That is one of the best things you can do to make your role-playing games better, is just to read a whole bunch of cool fiction. You have a little setting, an introduction to the setting, the comprehensive survey of all the aeons, notable events and personages and places, geographical sites, character creation. So if you're creating a character specifically for the Dying Earth, you can use these tables here. Languages, alignment, VAT things, starting flaws. So we do have some starting flaws. That's cool. A magician here. VAT thing. The wayfarer. The witch. Habiliments of obvious efficacy for the discerning adventurer. Yes, they definitely tried to emulate the Jack Vance style. That is pretty funny. Languages of the Dying Earth. Vancian verbiage. We have kind of a glossary here. That is really cool. That's nice. I like that a lot. So you could kind of pepper your adventures with some Vancian verbiage to add some verisimilitude to your Dying Earth adventures there. Okay, so then what else do we have? The Primer of Practical Magic. So I knew going in that the Dying Earth book was going to have a lot about magic, and I typically don't use a lot of magic in my games, mainly because I don't like bookkeeping. I don't like keeping track of spells, and in Vancian magic, you are keeping track of a lot of things with your magic. I do like reading about Vancian magic. I do like the various charts that DCC RPG uses for their magic. I find it entertaining to read, if not to apply to my own game. So I knew that there was going to be a kind of a large portion of this box set that I would probably never really use. Maybe just to inspire a villain or something like that. But yeah, I probably will never use anything from this book, but boy, howdy, will I love looking at this book just because of the art, and a lot of the charts are fun. Maybe this has some, the corruption charts are always fun, and you can always use these corruption charts for corruption outside of casting spells. If you just wanted to add some weird corruption to your games, you could always do that. Philosophy and religion of the Dying Earth. So this might be interesting here. to apply, because I do like incorporating some religions and lore and that kind of thing, spirituality in my games. And here we have all of our spells of the Dying Earth. Animal summoning, cantrip, chill touch, choking cloud, color spray, comprehend languages, detect magic, magic missile, of course. So yeah, people familiar with the magic system in Dungeons and Dragons should feel right at home with this system here. 100 magician quirks. Okay, so this is a really good table here. A D100 table of quirks. We didn't look at the back here. 100 unusual landmarks. Okay, that's super cool too. That is very useful to a solo player. A dozen white dolomite statues, a museum from an ancient aeon, a white villa among poplar trees, a livery yard stocked with heretoids. All right. Here we have, let's see, some quirks for a magician maybe. Is actually a wayfarer fraud. Oh, that's cool. Never shows their face, which they keep hidden behind a mask. Speaks in sibilant whispers. Is secretly an archvault. So, okay, so those charts are going to be very handy. I'll probably scan those charts and add them to a notebook of cool tools to use. See if we can get the rest of the stuff out here. All right, here we have the intimate anatomy of several creatures and personages of the 21st eon. So here we have our bestiary. This is what I was most excited about. I love bestiaries. That cover just absolutely rules. Patrons of the Dying Earth. So we have new patrons. These patrons are always fun. You can always use the various charts from the patrons to stimulate some your imagination and come up with some adventure ideas there. The Pragmatica, patron taint. The Pragmatica. Few can serve the Pragmatica and not be warped into its own image and start to perceive the pattern as it does. Sadly, beings born in three-dimensional space and one-dimensional time do not have the faculties to process the perceptions. These tainted disciples generally suffer for it. What is this here? 100 noteworthy airs and allurements. So you might have a brilliant obligato, a sultry aria, a high-need capering dance, an energetic bolo, a pastoral pibgorn, a terrible intense concord. Very cool. So all kinds of neat things there. Codex of creatures, monstrous and mundane. Yeah, so this is the stuff that I think will be really cool, especially with all of the lore that you get from the various creatures. It's always nice to have a little bit more than just some stats. It's always nice to have something that you can connect to the fiction. And that's one thing that I'm getting a lot of out of this book right now. Unusual elements, provisions, and viands, and an index for everything. All right, cool. So not as much as I was hoping for. I think the Lankmar box set, the Fafhrd and Grey Mouser box set, actually offers a little bit more for me as a soloist. Here's a cool poster here of the Dying Earth. We'll leave that set up for the rest of the video. Yeah, but so far, I'm not sure if I'm going to be keeping this. I might let this go. It's not sparking my imagination as much as I thought. Let's see what's in the Stretch Goals collection. Maybe this will have a few more things to offer me. I do really love these covers, though. I mean, those things are amazing, but I don't think I would keep it just for the covers. Maybe I would just scan these and enjoy them on a computer, or enjoy some of the artwork. But yeah, I'm not jazzed about these box sets so far. I don't have a lot of things that I think will be useful for me. So this is the Casebook of Arcane Apocrypha. What do we have here? Let's see here. Curses, wizardly objurgations, spells, expanded arcane spells, expanded witch spells, more patrons of the Dying Earth, notable personages of the Dying Earth, additional environs. I was kind of hoping there would be more about the The land, the environment, the setting, weird places and things to discover. But it really does seem that they honed in on the magic aspect. And I should have known that. You know, that is what Dying Earth is known for in the RPG realms, but in the fiction realms, that's also known as being a very creative place to exist. And it has a lot of interesting places to explore. But it seems like this box set is more acutely focused on the magic. So it just maybe just doesn't offer up enough things for me, and that's fine. So here we have some places. That's kind of cool. So this book might be a little more useful. Maybe just the stretch goals boxes would be something that I find useful. Here we have some various dungeons and places to explore with some details. I do like that a lot. The Manse of Yisbane, the Obviator. Here we have a city. A little hex crawl here. Hex crawl map. I like that. But not a lot of cool charts of random things to roll up. Fancy names. Let's see here. We have some charts here. Names. Dying Earth name prefixes. Titles. All right. Let's see what else we have here in this stretch goals box. We have our judges screen. Very handy. People will find that useful, I'm sure. Do we get the full picture? No, that's a shame. I would love that. I would keep this if it had the full picture. We do get a book here of character sheets specifically made for Dying Earth. Are they two-sided? No. That's kind of weird that they're not two-sided. You would think that they would have more things about the spells on the character sheet, since the spells seem to be the focus of this particular box set. We do have these little pamphlets here for some magic here. We have the starting spell Librum 1 and 2. So a comprehensive cyclopedia of beginner magics. That could be useful there. The Goodman Games Gazette. So this is like kind of just a newsletter that they put out, and this is one devoted to the Dying Earth. And an art folio, the Dying Earth art folio. DCC, man, Goodman Games, they really do get some of the best old school art in the biz. That is, man, some of this stuff is just so cool. I love looking at these books. But yeah, overall, on my initial judgment here, I'm not finding a lot for the soloist here. I don't think this is going to be very useful for me. And I don't think I'm disappointed, because I had a feeling that the focus was going to be on the magic and that I would not be getting a lot of use out of it, but I was hoping for some more random charts to roll up on exploration, on things to explore, on random hex crawls and that kind of thing. And they just didn't seem to focus on that. So I have a feeling that I'm going to be passing this on to somebody else who will appreciate it more. Well, anyways, I hope you all enjoyed taking this detailed look at the Dungeon Crawl Classics Dying Earth box sets. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.